So why is it important to have a leader for a group project? I think logistically, it kind of makes sense for someone to maybe take charge over the project. Not saying this one person has to do all the work, but just perhaps they are organizing when people are meeting. Maybe they're the one person that's going to turn something in. I think it's just important in general for a group to have specific roles filled, perhaps, or just for each team member to know what's expected of them. I think naturally there's going to be someone who's going to kind of step up and become the leader per se. I think that happens in every type of environment, whether it's in a family setting, a group of friends, at work. You're going to always have someone who's just kind of naturally gravitates towards that. I definitely agree that schmoozing is totally important. In my work, whenever I meet new people or I'm going to be working with someone new that we have to have a relationship, I call them on the phone, or if I have an opportunity to meet them in person, I go and talk to them. It's nice to get to know people on a personal level, just having something in common, especially in group work. If you can find one or two things that you can relate to with someone, like your team member, if something goes wrong with that, and you have a relationship maybe where you're butting heads, it's easy to look at them and say, okay, let's just put that aside and remember that, we have this in common. They talk about humanizing your I say coworkers, but humanizing your group members. It's extremely important. We all have lives, and if things go wrong, it's easy to just put blame immediately and say, oh, they're not pulling their weight, or oh, I don't agree with them. But it's kind of like, take a step back. Remember, we're all different people. Everyone has a different background. So I definitely think schmoozing is important, because then you can kind of cut a lot of conflict out of it completely, because your brain doesn't even go there, because you're just in a more positive environment. You have a better relationship with that person. What does it say that a large chunk of the chapter covers conflict resolution? So I think the hardest part of group work is not the assignments or the work that needs to be solved. It's definitely working with other people. Working with people who are different than you, who all come from different backgrounds. Everyone has different experiences, and that kind of shapes who we are. It's hard to work with people, just in every environment of our lives. It's hard. That's the hardest thing that we can possibly do. So I think it's extremely great that this reading covered all those different types of managing conflict, as you can just apply it to not just group work, but work and family and relationships and anything. And I think with group work, especially in school and in college, you don't really realize that it is preparing you for the professional working world. It is. When you get to a job, you don't really have a choice of, all right, in a semester, you're not going to see those people again. It doesn't matter if you don't work with them well. You don't have that, really. You kind of don't have a choice. I mean, you do, but it's your livelihood. You want to continue on making the best of it. So it's extremely important. I think that is the hardest part of working in a group. Not the assignment at all. It's just working with the people. So a benefit of synchronous communication is the fact that if you have a question or needs clarification, you can ask immediately and you hear that feedback right away, because you're talking to someone, whether over the phone or Skype or in person. You also get to hear tone, if there's sarcasm or joking. That's important. A lot of people communicate that way, and it's not a bad thing. That's just how people communicate. So if you don't have that, with asynchronous communication, that is a drawback for sure. However, a benefit, I think, of asynchronous communication is that you have some time to reflect on what you're going to say. So this, for example, is kind of like that. We can read the prompts and we can write up, what we're going to say or practice it, and we can process it. So I think that's important, especially in group work. If, maybe you're someone who's going to respond really quickly and it's going to be a negative reaction, the asynchronous is a good thing for you, because it's a think before you speak. So some of my experiences with group project work, most of it was, in undergrad, we had so many group projects, especially when I got to my core program classes. It was just all group work. The biggest benefit for me is that I slowly started to like it. I work best with other people. I am definitely a collaborator. I like to hear my ideas not necessarily validated, but it's nice to get other people's opinions on it, right? Is it worth exploring this idea? I don't want to work by myself if it's just on something, if it's not going to be good. So it's nice to hear from someone right away what they think. I like hearing other people's ideas. there's so many ideas out there that I could never think of. So it's great to hear them from other people. I think the biggest drawback that in my experiences was just working with people who didn't want to do group work, who were just kind of coasting by, who were there to just get a C, they'd be happy. You know, they're just there to get a passing grade, which is fine in a way. You know, if that's what they want to do, you kind of have to respect that, but that's where you have to kind of figure out, how do you work with those people? So for me, that was the biggest drawback, was definitely working with people who you have different expectations of the work that you're going to put in. So I really enjoyed reading this this article and video. There's definitely, you know, a lot to talk about on group work. So I'm excited to hear other people's answers.